When Broly descended through the dusty orange skies of Arlia, the planet reacted as if another invader had arrived to strip it bare. For generations, the Arlians had lived in cycles of oppression. Saiyan raiding parties, tyrant warlords, and passing cosmic forces who used the insectoid world for sport or extraction. The warning klaxons screamed across the hive cities as his emerald aura pierced the atmosphere, casting a green tint through every window slit in the capital. Armed patrols scrambled along the fortress walkways, their spiked armor clattering nervously as they positioned themselves around the courtyard. In the shadow of their marble idol of King Moai, the ground shook, not from an explosion, but simply from Broly landing, one man causing more tremor than any invader fleet Arlia had ever faced. The Arlian soldiers tightened their formation, weapons trembling in their hands. Broly didn't even raise his energy. He simply exhaled softly, releasing a gentle pulse of ki, barely a whisper to him, yet enough to disable every weapon system within 50 meters. Metal collapsed, circuits fried, and the courtyard fell silent as the guards stared at their lifeless rifles. Broly stood relaxed, hands at his sides, his red sash billowing behind him, like a war banner carried by a god who had long abandoned violence. The Arlians saw no rage, no conquest madness, no sadistic grin. What unsettled them more was the calm. King Moai emerged from his golden chamber, mandibles twitching, eyes flickering with both fear and calculation. He had seen Saiyans before, but none who carried themselves like this. Broly stepped forward, his aura dimmed, his posture respectful, yet every movement radiated the quiet message that he could tear the palace apart without trying. His voice, when he spoke, was deep but strangely composed, as if he were addressing equals rather than insects, by Saiyan standards. "Your world has been ravaged," he began, looking past the king toward the shattered towers and scorched dunes. "You've been ruled by tyrants who saw you as nothing but resources, by warriors who only wanted to prove their strength, by invaders who took pleasure in your suffering." He paused as several Arlians lowered their weapons, confused by his tone. "I'm not here for that. I'm not here to burn your world or bend it under my knee." King Moai narrowed his eyes, struggling to understand. "Then why come at all, Saiyan? If not to rule us, what do you want from Arlia?" Broly looked down at the cracked tiles beneath his feet, then back at the king with an intensity that forced the Arlian guards to step back. "I come because you are weak," he said, not as an insult, but as if stating a natural truth. "And because every time you rebuild, someone stronger arrives to destroy everything again." The king bristled, offended, but Broly lifted a hand to stop him. "I know this cycle. I was born into a world where power decides everything, but I've learned something those tyrants never understood." His aura flickered, warm, not violent. Strength can protect, strength can shield, strength can give life instead of taking it. The courtyard began to shift in mood, fear giving way to a cautious, stunned curiosity. Broly took another slow step, the wind kicking up grains of sand around him as if the planet itself bent to his presence. "I offer you a different kind of conquest," he continued. "I take Arlia as my territory, yes, but not as a master takes slaves. I take it as a guardian claims responsibility. No pirate fleet touches you again. No empire enslaves you. No wandering tyrant destroys your cities. Under my shadow, your people live." His eyes hardened, not with anger, but with conviction. A protector is still a conqueror, King Moai. The difference is what he chooses to do with what he takes. For several tense seconds, the Arlian ruler said nothing. His people watched from the courtyard balconies, waiting for a command, fight or kneel. But the king sensed something he had never felt from previous invaders. Broly wasn't lying. He didn't need to manipulate or deceive them. He had the power to crush Arlia in an instant, yet chose not to. And that choice alone shook the king more than any show of force. Finally, Moai spoke, his voice low and tentative. "You. Claim our world as your territory." Broly nodded once. "Then tell me, Saiyan, what becomes of Arlia if we accept?" Broly lifted his head, emerald eyes glowing softly. "You gain a protector, and I gain a world that trusts me enough to stand beneath my strength. not tremble beneath it. He stepped back, giving the king space, a gesture unheard of among conquerors. Choose, King Moai. Will Arlia continue its cycle of oppression, waiting for the next warlord, or will you stand behind someone who won't let your enemies touch you again? The wind died, the courtyard held its breath, and somewhere deep inside the hive city, an Arlian child whispered the first hopeful words spoken about an outsider in generations. The Arlian courtyard was still buzzing with disbelief long after Broly finished speaking. Word spread through the hive chambers, a conqueror who promised protection, a Saiyan who spoke calmly, a warrior who didn't demand bloodshed. While the Arlians processed their future, Broly walked away from the palace steps, letting the wind brush against his red sash and scatter dust across the stone floor. He stepped down a long corridor that led out of the capital, his boots tapping lightly, each step echoing with the weight of what he had just done, taken a planet without violence. Waiting for him at the archway was Kawe, leaning casually against one of Arlia's tall, bone-like pillars. Her staff rested at her side, her teal hair glowing faintly under the foreign sun. She raised a brow as Broly approached, the ghost of a smirk forming on her lips. "You finished?" she asked. Broly glanced back at the hive city, listening to the collective relief building in the air. "Negotiations are over," he said, voice low. Then, with that rare dry humor of his, he added, "Honestly, it's easier to just kill them, isn't it?" Kawe's eyes widened before she let out a quiet laugh, shaking her head. "Broly," she sighed, "you can't keep thinking in straight lines. Times are changing. Power isn't measured only by the mountains you can destroy or the armies you can break." She stepped closer, circling him like a teacher evaluating a stubborn student. "There are other warriors rising, other would-be emperors forming alliances, negotiating territories, building political leverage. You're strong, yes, but strength alone isn't going to win you your place in the future. If you want Arlia, and if you want respect from the higher cosmic courts, then you have to learn the political side too." Broly looked away, clearly annoyed but not dismissive. "I have no interest in ruling people," he muttered. "I'm here to stop them from being stepped on." Kawe tapped her staff lightly against the ground. "That's exactly why you should learn this game. Empires don't care about good intentions. History doesn't remember warriors who just fought. It remembers warriors who shaped worlds. You've already put your foot into that arena, Broly, whether you want to or not." She paused, then softened her tone. "This world will change because of you, but you also need someone to guide that change." Broly stood in silence for a moment, absorbing her words. Though he hated politics, he understood the weight behind them. He wasn't the only rising titan anymore. Turles Supreme, Vegeta, Cella, Cooler, 17, the Frisians, the Namekians, each was building influence not just through strength, but through territory and alliances. "Fine," he said finally. "I'll play the game, my way." Then he turned to Kawe fully. "I need you to make preparations. Bring Kale to Arlia in the next few months." Kawe blinked in surprise. "Kale? The shy one from Sadala?" Broly nodded. "Arlia needs someone kinder than me. Someone gentle, but strong enough to be respected. Someone the people won't fear, but can rely on." His voice lowered. "I won't be here long. If I'm going to campaign, if I'm going to build something meaningful, I can't stay rooted to one planet. Kale can nurture Arlia while I carve the path ahead." Kawe studied him for a moment. Broly, the monster who once annihilated armies, now building a political structure with his own brand of logic. She smiled softly. "Very well. I'll contact her. She'll come, even if she's nervous. She admires you more than she admits." Broly turned back toward the vast desert horizon, watching the wind ripple across the dunes like waves. "Good. Arlia deserves someone like her." And beneath the quiet of his voice, a new era was beginning. 3 days after the negotiations, the planet of Arlia pulsed with a nervous anticipation it had not felt in centuries. Whether through fear or hope, every hive city, every burrow, every nectar farm and warrior post knew that history was about to fracture into two eras, before Broly and after Broly. The capital's great courtyard, once scarred by past invasions, was now cleaned and decorated with long banners of amber silk, woven by thousands of tiny Arlian workers through the night. Their hands shook as they placed them, for even as they welcomed a savior, they could not forget that he was still a force strong enough to snap their world in half with a careless breath. When Broly entered the courtyard, the entire assembly reacted like a wave. Heads bowed, mandibles clicking, spines folding inward, as if instinct recognized something their politics could not define. He wore no regal armor, no ornate crest. Only his familiar white battle pants, gold wristbands, the red sash tied casually around his waist, and the aura of a being who could level star systems but chose not to. The Arlian guards lined the walkway, not to constrain him, but to honor him. An irony not lost on Kowe, who observed from the side with an expression balancing amusement and pride. Broly stepped forward toward the elevated throne platform, an ancient slab of chitin and meteor stone where Arlian rulers once sat. He did not ascend it. Instead, he remained at the base, arms at his sides, choosing humility rather than dominance. King Moai approached atop a hovering platform, his ceremonial armor shining brilliantly under the rising sun, though his expression betrayed the weight of surrender mixed with the relief of survival. As he floated down to stand face to face with Broly, the courtyard fell so silent that even the desert winds held their breath. "Broly of the Saiyan race," King Moai announced, his amplified voice trembling as it echoed through the hive spires. "You have spoken words our world has never heard from a conqueror. You have offered strength without oppression, protection without chains, and the possibility of a future where Arlia is not merely a footnote in the ambitions of greater empires." He paused, examining Broly's face for arrogance, for cruelty, for any hint that this was a disguise for conquest. There was none, only calm certainty. Moai knelt. An audible shudder rippled through the Arlian crowd. Never in recorded memory had a king bowed to an outsider. "By the authority of Arlia's ancient lineage," Moai said, lowering his head fully, "and with the will of my people, we accept your offer. We accept your conquest, not through fear, but through trust." The king lifted his gaze, mandibles steady. "Broly, we name you Protector Lord of Arlia. May your strength defend us, and may your shadow shield us from the storms of the galaxy." For the first time since Broly set foot on the planet, he allowed a faint smile to touch his lips. He reached out, not with power, but with presence, and lifted Moai back to his feet without force. "I don't want your fear," Broly said softly, allowing the words to drift across the courtyard like a gentle gust. "I want your world to stand, and when I leave Arlia, you will still stand. No empire touches this planet unless I allow it. No tyrant lays a claim here. From this moment on, Arlia is under my protection." A roar erupted, not of violence but of celebration. Arlians clattered their armor, stamped their clawed feet, and raised their spears skyward. The hive city walls pulsed with glowing bioluminescent patterns, a traditional display reserved only for coronations. Green and gold lights spiraled upward, as if the planet itself was saluting its new guardian. Kowe stepped into view beside Broly, her staff glimmering with ritual light. "A political victory," she whispered with a smirk, just low enough for him alone. "You handled it better than I expected. Maybe there's hope for you yet." Broly exhaled with mild annoyance, but there was a hidden pride beneath it. He watched the thousands of Arlians celebrating in unison, not forced, not trembling, but truly relieved. "Enjoy this moment," Kowe continued. "All great leaders are remembered for the day their people accepted them. And trust me, Broly, you want this written in the stars. You want history to record that you were more than a weapon." Her eyes narrowed with playful sharpness. "You were a force that shaped worlds." Broly didn't respond immediately. His gaze drifted toward the distant hills where construction crews were preparing new civilian shelters, his request after the negotiation. He knew he would not remain here forever. He had campaigns to plan, threats to anticipate, rivals rising in power across the stars. But he also knew Arlia could not be abandoned. Not to Moai alone, not to a fragile ecosystem constantly targeted by predators of the cosmos. Kale will come soon, Broly finally murmured. Kindness is the heart of this world. She'll fit here better than I ever could. Koei nodded approvingly. And that, she said, is exactly why the people believe in you. As the sun climbed above the horizon, showering the capital in warm orange light, the ceremony reached its apex. Broly raised one hand. Nothing extravagant, nothing theatrical, and the Arlians cheered again, a singular, unified voice that reverberated across every hive and canyon. In that moment, for the first time in centuries, Arlia felt safe. And Broly, protector lord of a fragile world he never intended to rule, felt the weight of destiny pressing gently against his palm.